Welcome to this edition of the Left Behind Game Club. This week we play through Double Fine Productions' Costume Quest. 3 pieces of housekeeping before we get to that. First off, I want to thank Lemuel Alquino. He is one of the producers on this week's episode. At the 11th hour, he took a file that was gross. It was echoey, it was inaudible, and he turned it into something that you can listen to. So for that, I want to say a big thank you to Lemuel. You can check out his work at his website, LALQUINO.com. If you have any questions for us about the games we played or about anything really, you can send those to questions@leftbehindgame.club. And our next episode coming out in 2 weeks is about Luigi's Mansion. In this week's episode, we did a lot of things, including imagining what our Costume Quest pitch would be to Tim Schafer.
Okay, here's my game idea, Mr. Schafer. I like Paper Mario, and Halloween's a cool holiday. Can we make a game about that?
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCourt, and with me today, 2 friends. The first friend you may know, you may not. You may not care, you may care. He's great. It's Michael Ruffolo.
I'm excited to talk about a great game.
That was so many words, wasn't it?
There was a lot of words.
Okay, well, hopefully Andrew Perciballi can save us. He's our second friend. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
I'm great, and speaking of never-ending quests, today we're talking about Costume Quest, the game that is up this week.
That's an unfair criticism, Andrew, and I can't wait to take you to task for it.
All right, so why don't you just tell us, what's Costume Quest all about? What's that thing?
So,
Tell us that thing!
Costume Quest is a very fun, very fantastic, very colorful, and energetic game developed by the classic legends at Double Fine, published by the now defunct THQ back in the year 2010, I think it was.
2011 on PC.
2011 on PC. Also came out, so I think it came out originally on the Xbox 360, and then I think it came out on the PS3 and some other platforms as well. I think there are mobile versions of it as well. And so the game it came out of Amnesia Fortnite, which is what happened when Double Fine's funding for Brutal Legend 2 fell out from underneath them. So Tim Schafer, the head of Double Fine, came together and said to all of his team, pitch me on games. We're going to bring them to publishers. And they got a bunch of games published from this. I think Stacking, Iron Brigade came out of it.
Known entrenched in some territories.
Right. And a bunch of different games. Costume Quest was one of them. In Costume Quest, the premise is you are 2 twins who've moved to a new neighborhood, and you're sent out by your parents to go trick-or-treating and meet some friends. And very early on in your adventures to go collect some candy, you find out that there's some mischief afoot, and people are trying to steal candy. And so you go on a quest in a costume to meet some friends, save your twin, and collect some candy.
Hold up. No. That's not what it's about at all. This is what it's about. Okay, so the guy walked into the room, he was pitching all the games, and he was like, listen, this is what you're going to do. Halloween, Pokemon. And then he just walked out.
And that was it.
And that was it. And then
What monsters do you catch?
what monsters do I catch?
Yeah.
Well, definitely not the ones in my head, but
Can I do an imaginary pitch if I'm in Amnesia Force? Okay, here's my game idea, Mr. Schafer. I like Paper Mario, and Halloween's a cool holiday. Can we make a game about that?
Okay, so what I think my 2 lovely friends are trying to get across here is that the game mechanics of the game are what I think is called active time battle systems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an RPG with very simple mechanics. So each kid, and as you go through the game, you end up getting more friends that join you on your quest. Each kid has their own costume, and as soon as you enter a battle with any of these ghouls, goblins, scary crow people that you run into, your kid who's dressed up in their cardboard costume transforms into what they imagine their costume to look like. So the kid who's dressed as a robot transforms into this big Gundam, and the kid who's dressed as a knight transforms into this amazing Arthurian knight.
It is cool the first time you see it.
It's pretty great.
I was blown away. Like, I didn't watch any pre-roll or anything about the game, and I was like, what is going on?
It looks so good. And so you battle in the minds of the kid. So it looks as if what the kids are imagining they look like and what they represent. And so
wait, actually in the minds of children? Is
I don't
this
know
thing
if it's
whole thing
actually
made up?
in the minds of kids. But if you look at the battle arena, it is a zoomed out, you are larger than life on the terrain of whatever area you're in. So I imagine that's not an actual thing that's happening in this neighborhood. I'm sure that this is mostly in the minds of the kids.
Oh, so this whole story is an imagination. That's the whole thing?
Sure.
Okay.
It might be, it might not. I don't know. There are real things that happen in the world. But let me just finish describing the battle system.
Yes, go ahead.
So each kid transforms into their costume into a real life version of it, and then it's turn based. So you choose which enemy you want to attack. You have one of two options at the beginning. You do enough of your basic attack, and you unlock your special attack that does extra critical damage. And then as you play the game, you collect different stickers that give you special abilities. To either stun enemies, to poison them, do damage over time, avoid attacks, things along those lines.
The battle stamps, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the general mechanics of the game, aside from
mechanics.
General mechanics.
Oh, you guys.
We like How I Met Your Mother a bit too much, I think.
So that's the story. That's the game mechanically. What's funny is I was describing the game to someone who isn't a gamey person. Described it to her, and she had a mental picture. And when I showed her what the game actually looked like, she says, "Oh shoot, that looks a lot more like a comic book." And I actually hadn't thought of it that way until I saw it in action and actually looked at it. This game looks great on PC, by the way.
I played it on PC as well.
I played it on my 360, but I love the look of this game. The aesthetic, I think, is so cute and whimsy, and it has so much whimsy, and it's colorful, and it's got a great sense of time and presence. I know we're all playing this leading up to Halloween, but it feels like fall when you play it.
Mm-hmm. It does. Andy, did you play it on PC?
Like it was, and I have a great monitor too. It looked that was definitely my favorite part. Like not the battle, like artistic bit for sure, but like the actual. Walking around bit. The kind of it reminded me. The mechanics reminded me a lot of Don't Starve Together. If you've ever played that,
it's got a similar camera.
I really like the art style in this one though, and it just I love the walking around bit. That was definitely, it felt very quaint.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was my favorite part of the game. Like I understand the nature of the game. I'm not a huge player of RPGs. And I know that grinding is part of it, and that battles are part of it. But to me, I almost like click through the battles as quickly as possible because I love like knocking on doors. I loved exploring. I love grabbing candy.
Before we talk about knocking on doors and how amazing that is, one of the things I want to point out as to why I think this game looks so good is because the lead on this game, the director of this game, is a former Pixar artist, and I think is now back at Pixar. I'm blanking on her name.
Tasha Harris.
That sounds exactly correct.
Yes.
And good poll.
Thanks.
So you can tell that there's serious quality in the artwork in here. Most Double Fine games have a very distinct visual look and have a great sense of atmosphere. But I absolutely love Costume Quest and how, the atmosphere that it has and the art direction. So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. Mm-hmm. Going back to knocking on doors, the music in this game is so good as well. Not only is the art fantastic, but the music is great. Every time you knock on the door, they've got this swelling music, and you never quite know what's going to be on the other side. So the way this works is you start the game by going door to door trick-or-treating, trying to collect as much candy as you can, and figure out what's happening in the neighborhood. But when you go to some of these doors, sometimes there's monsters in the homes that are trying to collect all the candy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you open the door and there's a monster behind it, you end up in a battle. But not every door has a monster behind it. Some doors have grown-ups because there's no voice acting in this game, and there's a lot of chat bubbles with the name of the person.
And each NPC that opens the door is just grown up.
Is just grown up. Sometimes there are grown-ups at the door, and they give you a ton of candy. And so when you go door to door, you never quite know you never know what's gonna happen. And there's this swelling music, and until and it swells, and then the door opens, and you get this instant relief, and it's this fantastic effect that it was the first thing that made me pay attention to the music. But I definitely noticed it as I was going through neighborhoods. It had, you could hear great audio environment cues like wind rustling leaves, wind blowing, kids talking, cars honking, things along those lines. But yeah, the music was, I think, absolutely fantastic.
Can I go on to say that it's not actually the music that I appreciated, it's the sound direction. Because I can't remember a single song. I mean, that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
This is a small game. The focus is on telling like a really quaint, really fun story. But to me, what was great was the sound direction. Like you said, you described the environment, like the little sound when you're using your skates, when you're a robot, you hear that little, someone went out and Foleyed that or made that sound or collected that sound from somewhere. There's a lot of thought about environmental noise, about sound effects, about little flares here and there. But as far as the music goes, I don't necessarily remember a single song.
I do remember a couple times thinking, like this theme again. And like it did happen a couple times, and there were a couple times where I wanted more variation, but for some reason it blended in with the environment a lot of the time. So it wasn't. I thought it was going to be annoying, but it wasn't, because you're right. There was something about like when you were in certain areas, there was like that feel, like it was never out of place. So I think it kind of like made up for like the lack of content there by like placing it correctly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that sound
direction
was fantastic. But I also noticed a distinct, theme type music, just like you were saying, Andrew, throughout, that I always felt, no matter where we were, was appropriate and gave a good sense of place and atmosphere and time. Because it also seems kind of retro. I don't know if you guys felt that way too, but it hit me more as like, this is taking place in the 90s or early 2000s.
I totally felt that, 100%.
And I think that was probably intentional in some capacity, because, I know that the pitch on this game was reliving the experience of going trick-or-treating. And if you look at who the audience would be for this game, it was probably people our age. And clearly, we would have been trick-or-treating in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah. I just hadn't thought of like who this game is developed for, because this is the second time that I played this. So I played it back when it first came out. So a huge fan of Double Fine. As an aside, if you're interested in learning more about the process of Amnesia Fortnite, there are great documentaries done by Two Player Productions. And they're actually now turning this into a business. Humble might be involved. I think Humble is involved, where every year they have a documentary series on the build-up to Amnesia Fortnite to the pitches. They let you vote on the pitches. For like $1, you get to vote on the pitches, and then they do 5 prototypes, and I think you actually get to play the prototypes as well. So there's that great piece of content if you're interested in learning more about like a game jam environment in a large studio, medium studio.
Just to go off of that, right now there's a Humble bundle with a whole bunch of Double Fine titles in it. And if you hit the max tier, the highest tier available in the Humble bundle, I think you get a VIP ticket to the Amnesia Fortnite.
Yeah, so again, fantastic. And that's aside from what's already out there for the Double Fine Two-Player Productions documentary related to Broken Age. I won't talk about that. But this is the second time I played through the game. And I would have played through it when I was like a late teenager, probably when I was still like getting really into costumes. This is the first year in a long time that I haven't dressed up for Halloween. And that's because of things that are happening that I just like, no party. I did like a haunted hayride, but I didn't go to a party and I didn't get a costume. I'm a real adult, okay?
I'm still a child. I went out as Buster Baxter from Arthur this year.
Oh my god, did you?
Yeah.
I did see that. I saw that.
You saw that? My friend went as Arthur. I went as Buster. Individually, people couldn't figure out who we were, but together, everyone understood.
But the reason I bring it up is because I don't remember liking this game as much when I played it the first time, And
Really?
and most of the time, like, if you want to listen to our old podcast, generally speaking, I think that I usually, like, for games that I played for the second time, most of the time I'm a grumpy curmudgeon, and I'm like, I don't like this. But, like, I like this game way more playing it now versus when I played it the first time.
Extra nostalgia.
So
Super nostalgia.
I guess let's set a baseline here. Andrew, have you ever played this game before?
No.
Okay, and did you know about this game before we asked?
No.
And Jacob, when did you initially play this game?
I played it probably within the first year of release because I was super into the 3 set of games that came out. I only played Iron Brigade and I played Costume Quest. I did not play Stacking. I want to play Stacking. I also played the Grubbins on Ice DLC about 2 or 3 years ago, right around Christmas time. So there's an additional piece of DLC. It's 2 hours. It's about Christmas. It's great.
So I played this game when it initially came out, and I loved it. I think I waited a year because I was insistent on playing it the month of October leading up to Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember playing it over the course of the month. I would hop on for an hour, maybe a half hour, play a little bit of it, enjoy the experience, and I know that I finished it on Halloween night, sitting at home before the kids came and rang the doorbell and annoyed me. And it was I just have the best memories of playing this game. And spoilers, I held a lot of those same feelings when I played it again this time.
Scrooge McDuck just like playing a video game about Christmas. like right before the clock strikes midnight here. Like, stupid kids coming in.
Damn kids. What do they think they're doing coming to my house on Halloween?
I'm trying to play a video game. Come on.
About Halloween.
I think this candy's for you.
So I like this game a lot more. You were talking about the art direction. Then we talked about how much you liked it. What are your general impressions of the game? We actually haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. So my general impression of the game is that it is one of the funniest games, and I think it carries a lot of the repetitive elements of this game and smooths them over because it is so consistently funny in ways that you don't expect. There are great moments where 2 of the villains, there are 2 birds that are carrying this chest, and they have these very self-aware conversations about being villains and about having ethical dilemmas and what they're doing, stealing.
Yeah, about being lackeys, essentially, too, right? Yeah.
There are fantastic moments where you can tell the writers of the game were crunched in a deadline and didn't know how to narratively get these kids off
the Ferris wheel.
And they said, I will suspend my disbelief for this moment. And it's this great moment where the game not only, has a wink at you, but it also says, despite it being rated E10, it also winks at you and says, we know that there are smart adults playing this game.
Like watching Pinky and the Brain.
Wait. How did they get? I'm trying to remember. How did they get off the Ferris?
It was a wipe.
They just did a wipe.
It was a wipe. And then they ended up on the ground.
So I'm sure if you asked the developer of the game, they would tell you, they're like, that was one of the last things we were supposed to implement, and we ran out of time. So
right.
In the last minute, we're like, how do we do this?
Well, the way up was important.
It was.
That was the important bit.
And that was a great character. What was that character's name? Augie, the daredevil who was like, I'm going to shoot myself. Orzo. He's a type of pasta rice.
Yeah. He said all great Italian daredevils are named after pasta.
No, I missed that.
Yeah, it was a good line.
All I was thinking of was right after that when you're in the maze with they're called.
We're jumping around. We should probably set up
yes
the progression of this story.
Yeah. Yes, I'll put a pin in that piece of. So I guess it's split into 3 pieces, 3 acts. So the first act, you're in the neighborhood cul-de-sac where you're either your sister or your brother, because you can, as you mentioned, you can do either, gets kidnapped, and you have to get through these gates at each point, which are gates that are blocked by there being candy left in the cul-de-sac. So when you collect all the candy in the cul-de-sac, you move on from there to the mall. And once you're in the mall, when you collect all the candy, you can go through the 3rd gate, which is some sort of
town on the outskirts. It's in the county.
Yes, and then after that you get the final confrontation of the game.
Final confrontation with Big Bones.
With Big Bones. Tell me that is some character.
That is amazing. I can't wait to talk about Big Bones, but I will.
So do we want to talk about the cul-de-sac?
So we started the cul-de-sac, and you go around door to door, and you never quite know who's going to be on the other side of it, and you bump into people, and there are different little side quests that you pick up along the way. And each of these side quests give you either candy or pieces of costume material or blueprints for costumes. And what ends up happening is, because each of these costumes, you can choose which costume you're going to wear into the battle. They each have their different abilities and battle mechanics. And so you end up needing to collect the 3 different elements. And if you have the blueprint, you create a costume out of it. And that costume then gives you new battle abilities when you get into the battle. So you complete these different side quests, and there are a bunch of different things to do. So in each of the different areas, there's a bobbing for apples minigame. There's a find the kids hidden throughout the space game. What other?
Which was way too reminiscent of Wind Waker for me after the nightmare I went through with that, but I digress.
Okay.
There's some other side quests that are like not really linear in the
Refresh my memory.
There's a lot that are like, hey, there's this card. I want this rare card. And sorry, what are the other?
Well, there was one that, like in the first area specifically, where you're like, oh, you have to get into this party where it's like a bunch of Abraham Lincolns, and you have to get like a patriotic costume to get into it.
They give you good hints,
right?
And so you end up having to collect all the different items. And I think, again, it speaks to some of the best aspects of the game, which is the writing. Mm-hmm. All of these kids, once you get into the party, dressed as Abraham Lincoln, or dressed as the Statue of Liberty, they end up making these comments about, isn't it weird that this statue that's about,
I remember that. They went like very into like the ethical dilemmas of like...
they talk about nationalism and patriotism and the differences between the two, and it's nothing that you expected of a game that's rated
for sure. I forget like the verbatim right now, but it definitely had reminiscence of that.
Yeah, and so there are many points throughout this game where they talk very intelligent to you and call aside some of the funny little tropes. And they're very aware of what they're doing.
You know what the writing reminded me a lot of, and I brought this up, is like Spielberg's WB cartoons. The Freakazoid, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, where the writing is very, like, I could rewatch it today and be like, oh dang, like I didn't realize that he made an innuendo, because like I was 7 when I watched it, because there was an animated mouse. And there's I mean, it's not as mature, but there's a lot of like, there's nothing like immature, but it's a lot of like wink and nods being like, hey, we know you're playing a video game. How about this joke? And I like it was really great. And the one I was going to bring up, I'm going to bring it up now because I'll forget if I don't. But the thing later in the game, you're in a maze and you're face to face with a grubbin, and you have to.
That's the first lower level enemy.
First lower level enemy, and you are wearing a grubbin costume to get through a gate. And he's sitting there, and he's like, "Oh, you look like a grubbin, but what's wrong with your voice?" And then he's like, oh, I'm just, making a joke about how stupid our voices are and trying this different voice. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, just fantastic, some of the writing. I digress, though. It's
yeah, so writing is the consistent high point. The 2 writers of this game, I think it's John Elliott and Tim Schafer. And Tim Schafer's humor is clear and shines throughout. I'm a big fan of Tim Schafer after having played Psychonauts, but I'm sure we'll get to that at some point on the podcast. I digress. The writing is fantastic. Despite having these many minigames throughout and doing them at every single stage, finding the kids, bobbing for apples, trading stamps with people, I still enjoy doing them. I love the bobbing for apples game. Mm-hmm. I love figuring out how to optimize my score, how to min-max it. How far do I have to go? Do I only go for the green apples? Do I go for the red apples? Do I get both? How do I play this game? I gotta say though, I didn't enjoy finding all the kids. Usually, I ended up finding them all, but I think in the first section I missed one.
I never did, and I was so mad. And I was so mad about it. Yeah, like I spent too much time on it, and then I was like, wow, I shouldn't just stick around if I'm like, I didn't know what kind of benefit. I forget what kind of benefit there was to doing it. Like if you got a reward or something.
Yeah,
but I was like,
costume pieces.
Oh, okay.
No, I think it was candy, because the thing that I did is the only thing I didn't do is find the kids in the cul-de-sac and the mall. Those are the only 2 things I think I found 4 to 6 in both.
Right.
And I think it's candy for those, because I The first time I played through, I didn't get all the costumes, but this time around, by happenstance, I got all the costumes.
No way.
And those are the 2 things I didn't complete.
I suppose I could have gone to a guide. I decided not to.
I didn't go to a guide, and I think I was just,
usually does.
and I usually do. Like, I'm notorious for being like, I'm super soft. I'm like, is this hard?
Yeah.
I'm going to GameFAQs.com. Let's do this. Also, because it's 10 years ago and people still go to GameFAQs instead of going to YouTube. Whatever. I digress is the theme for today.
Yeah.
It was a fun game, and I wouldn't say it was easy either.
So I thought it was easy, and then I had a friend come over and play it with me, and I saw the way that he played it, and I realized I can see how some people would find this difficult. I thought the battle system was pretty clear, and the way that you should prioritize enemies was pretty clear. Anyone who's a medic or cast spells, you try and stun them or kill them as quickly as possible. Anyone that is a big, burly dude, you finish them in the end when you can concentrate all of your attacks on them.
For sure.
You equip a dodge sticker on your character that heals everyone. You always have the Statue of Liberty, because the Statue of Liberty can heal your entire party after 2 attacks.
Got rid of it.
Not until we had 3.
Not until I got the unicorn. After I got the unicorn, I changed from Statue of Liberty to unicorn.
I didn't get the unicorn this time.
You didn't. Did you get the unicorn?
No.
You didn't get the unicorn because the unicorn could heal. So Anthem, which is the Statue of Liberty's...
Which is amazing.
Yeah, which is a great... And those, vignettes to, do the special powers.
Oh, yeah, like the Abraham Lincoln and the eagle flying around,
was amazing.
Yeah, that was great.
But what Anthem does is Anthem heals your party, equally, universally, maybe 60 HP. It depends on your level, where you are in the game, whatever. But what the unicorn does is it takes all of that healing ability and puts it on one character. So if you end up having characters...
That's a great one.
Super duper. So, you get to... And I want to hear what your loadouts were like or what your party ended up being. But I ended up going with, for most of the game, the Knight. I ended up going... Yeah.
What?
The Knight, the Robot...
No wonder you found it difficult.
The Knight, the Robot, and the Unicorn. That's what I beat the game with. And I would put stamps on. So the Knight would have poison. So it would poison everything around. The Robot would have
damage over time.
Counterattack because it had the highest attack.
Yes.
So I get more attack. And then my my Unicorn had a dodge because it was the weakest of the bunch.
Yeah.
So what was your party
similar.
like? Andy, what was your party like?
I'm going to judge your
I know. I'm like, oh no, I didn't prioritize it like that. So I would say I used the spaceship man at some point.
He was fantastic.
I thought it was great. And then I used the Knight as well as the Robot as well. But near the end, I switched over to the Ninja as my third person.
Kitsune Shroud.
I know, and because
That's a bad special.
It is, yeah, but it's better than the Knight special.
Because I'm a romantic, I gave him the expert dodge ability.
You were just thematically on point.
I don't know.
This doesn't make any
that's
sense,
what hit me.
but it's on point.
As far as the Knight had counterattack, the Robot. Oh, nuts! I forget what he had. I think I routinely switched to the Robot here and there, but I think going back to my first impressions on the combat. At first, I was like, "Oh, I get how this game is going to be. It's going to be super boring, and I'm just going to hit I'm going to figure out oh, this does 60 damage and this does whatever."
How do you actively reload your attack to make sure you get the maximum damage?
Yep. And then I was like, and then as the battle stamps came in, I was like, "Oh, this is more complicated than I first thought." So I felt throughout the game, I felt like I was changing my playstyle. Even though. Which I was excited about, because at first I was really worried. I was like, oh no, it's just going to be the same thing over and over. But as things progressed, even though I didn't get even a lot of costumes, I would say, probably because I rushed through it, I would say I dramatically changed my playstyle consistently as I moved forward. And I was like, oh, I lost this battle. I have to go back and revise what I'm doing. I use Scare a lot. Until I realized it didn't work on the bosses.
Yeah. And stun doesn't work on the bosses either.
Right, exactly.
Or TP, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't use the TP, I used the egg. Because the egg would do the stun as well.
Does damage and stun.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the bosses can get distracted by the stun, right?
Yeah.
The final...
Drusilla.
Yeah,
yes.
The witch.
Yeah, she's powering up, and you can like throw a
Who
stun at
also
her.
has a twin, Dorian.
Yes.
Which is
Oh snap!
you're right. Did that just click? Did that just click?
Yeah.
So in this game, you're looking for your twin, who's stolen because they're dressed like a piece of candy corn, the worst piece of candy in existence.
Agree.
And I mean, there's nothing to agree with. It's a fact.
Yeah.
All of you savages out there who eat that disgusting, syrupy garbage. So yeah, your sibling is dressed as a piece of candy corn, and these monsters who are not very bright think it's just a giant piece of candy that talks, and so they steal your twin, and you have to go and collect them at the end of this game. And as the big boss of all of these baddies is this witch Drusilla. And you find throughout the game there's this black cat, there's this scarecrow, this jack-o'-lantern. They all help you. They give you little pieces of costume
wisdom,
items,
advice,
hints, candy, little things throughout. And you end up finding later that it's a fortune teller, her twin brother Dorian, which I thought was fantastic thematically.
Yeah, who almost starts as like, doesn't he start in one of those like boxes? What are those arcade games with the fortune teller? What is that called?
Zoltan.
Zoltan. Did he not start in like a Zoltan-esque costume and booth?
He did, yeah. Yes. How did we get on this topic?
Siblings, candy corn,
Disgusting.
costumes, party.
Costumes. Okay.
Yeah.
So your loadouts, I don't know
Got there.
why you guys use the knight. That completely confuses me.
Okay,
'Cause the
what'd you
knight's-
use?
No, let me just point out the knight's special attack is to provide one of your party members an essentially invulnerability. When they get damaged, it's like 1 or 2 damage as opposed to 15 or 30 or whatever you're scaling at that point. So my loadout was the robot, the Gundam, with counterattack, because they were they can attack a lot. It was fantastic.
He's the Mario of this game, if you will.
Yeah.
The best Mario brother.
No, I mean he's the main character.
I have to also point out, you have to wear the robot because otherwise you will walk and not run. And why would I play this game at a walk pace when I can play it at a run pace?
You made a fantastic point. So most costumes have an alternate ability. Some costumes don't. So the knight has the alternate ability to provide a shield that allows you to walk through water and other areas. The astronaut has a light-up sword that allows you to walk through the dark portions that there's no light.
With the animation for it, by the way, was stunning. Every time the astronaut
like they were
put
Pixar
up his
artists.
sword and he like looks back and forth, I was like, wow, he looks like he's looking around. Like it like made me unsettled how good that animation was. I don't know, it just threw me off. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, so my loadout was the robot with the special ability to use his Heelys and move around very quickly with the counterattack sticker. The second character I had was the Statue of Liberty with the dodge. Whatever it was that allowed them to essentially dodge every single attack that came at it. And the reason I stacked it that way was because the Statue of Liberty would heal everyone, so you could be sure that they would always survive and never get hit by stuff. And so if you were ever the last party member remaining, you could consistently attack and not take much damage. Because out of 5 attacks, they'd probably dodge 3 or 4. And then my last member, for the vast majority of the game, when I wasn't playing around and using the McDonald's fries, was, which by the way, one of the most amazing costumes we got to talk about right after this, was the astronaut dude. Because his special attack, which hailed down a meteor and did fantastic fire damage everywhere, was just so good. Because whenever the enemy trio, you never know what combination they're going to be in. If there was any time a sorcerer that would cast an invulnerability spell on one of the characters, you could be sure to use the meteor strike or the rocket strike from your big rocket dude on one of the other characters, do maximum damage on them, and do very minimal splash damage on the invulnerable character and destroy their shield. I felt like I optimized my gameplay when it came to this.
I feel like you made a list, and you made like a list of like pros and cons of. Did you?
I didn't actually write out a list, but as soon as I realized it was going to be more advanced than just hitting the right button at the right time, I was like, oh, let me turn my brain into a computer right
Less
now.
advanced wars, more Fire Emblem, right? Yeah. So
Yes.
bad
I did
example,
that
but The Fry costume.
So
the only
hilarious.
one I did not use in battle.
So the Fry costume in battle is like a crab or spider, and its special attack is it rains down salt from the sky like meteors. It is yes,
Like
yes,
Salt Bay.
like the Salt Bay.
The Salt
yeah. And it is not a very strong costume. It's not a very good one, but it is hilarious to see a McDonald's fry in battle against these demons or these grunts or whatever. Also, the section with the fry. So you get to the third act of the game. You're in this town just outside of the city, and your costumes are stolen from you at this point. You have to figure out how to get them back. And you roll up to this fry truck, and the fry cook's like, "Hey, I've got like a kid-sized costume. Do you want it?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. It'll allow us to at least figure out what we can do until we get our other costumes." And he's like, "I'll give you more costumes if you bring me 3 customers."
If you lure the children.
If you lure the children.
Mhm.
And so while most costumes have a second special ability when you hit the B button, the fry costume allows
I
you
love this.
to leave a trail of fry scent wherever you go. And when you walk by hungry kids, they speak in all caps with exclamation points, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's fries! I'm so hungry. Let's go!"
I audibly laughed when the girl got to the fry truck. I was like, "I'm gonna eat fries till I puke." I was just like, I was in disbelief. I was like, "That's amazing!"
And
Like,
see,
so good.
I made the mistake of my girlfriend came over at the time that I got to this point, and I basically said, "Look, I'm luring children with fry scent," and she's just like, "What are you playing? What is
We're
this
never
game?"
having kids.
Yeah, we're never having kids with you ever again.
Whoa.
Sorry. Go on, fries.
So the fry
I don't have
costume-
children.
The fry costume's amazing. It has one of the best special abilities. It's one of those rare moments in the game where the designers are like, we could probably come up with something very thematic and funny and like on point in the story that helps progress the narrative. But instead they're like, we're just gonna have some fun with this.
yeah.
And they have a
As-
lot of fun with it, and I had a ton of fun.
As
with
a maverick and as someone who typically loves to ruin projects with my bad sense of humor, I can just picture the one guy in the back being like, "Hey, what if there was a fry costume
Yeah.
and there was fry scent
Yep.
and lure the children?" Like that's immediately what I went to.
Right.
Not like, "Hey, this is really funny," but I'm like, "Hey, that's me in this double fine stand-up meeting going like, hey, we need a costume. Guess what? It's gonna be fries and he's a load of children."
And then when the game comes out, you're like, "Yo, you see that fry thing? That was me." like you're telling all your friends, like, that was my contribution to that, like, multi.
And the thing is, anyone who's advocating for a fry costume, their friends know it was them. Their friends know.
Yep,
it was
they're
them.
like, "Yeah,
It's like,
I totally believe you."
it couldn't have been anyone else.
Yep.
No one else is that much.
He
of a
takes it
fan.
home and he's like, honey, look this is my contribution to this game. It's on my LinkedIn. And she's like, "Oh, honey, this is what you spent 3 years working on?"
Fry
This fry
costume
costume.
designer.
Can that be his title? To
Yeah.
whomever designed this, I'm actually saying thank you. Because
Oh,
it
I
was
think
one
it
of
was one of the best moments.
Yeah.
hilarious.
Holla.
Holla. Going back to the cul-de-sac, we've kind of covered it. You collect your candy, then you go to the mall,
You
right?
go to the mall, you get a new type of villain. They're a little bit bigger than the grunts you've been facing so far. And this is also where they open up the ability to sneak attack them. So you can provoke battles now because you get costumes like the ninja costume that allows you to sneak past anyone without getting into a battle. Now you can sneak up behind the enemies, smack them in the back when they're patrolling and say, "Ha ha! Here I am. Bet you weren't expecting this."
No, it's something much more wittier than that.
It usually is, yeah. My witticism's on the spot.
I feel as though one or two of them are actually that, though. Like, ha-ha! Is it just me, or was that the only one that actually made, like, the voices of some of the characters? Like, I picture, the big guys, and I'm like, "Oh, guess who's gonna steal your candy?"
Yep.
See, you've got a good voice background.
Well, and then same thing with the birds. I was like, "Wow, I'm gonna come and get your candy!"
I did feel that one, yeah.
Yeah, so that's immediately what I went to when I saw those big baddies in that part of the
I
game.
wish I had those skills to voice act it myself,
Yeah,
but I didn't. And I left wishing that the production budget was a bit higher, that they could have had this voice acted. Because, again, I'll go back to Psychonauts as one of my favorite games of all time. I think it has fantastic voice acting. And the writers at Double Fine are good at writing for spoken dialogue.
Broken Age was good too. Did Broken Age not have? It did
Elijah
have.
Wood?
Yeah, Elijah Wood. I only played the first part of that game.
I haven't finished it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do
I
you
played
want?
a bit of it. I like the mall. They brought me back to when I was a young kid, and I used to live right next to a mall.
Mhm.
And I used to go trick-or-treating in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to people, and I'm like, did you ever go trick-or-treating in the mall? They're like, never. That sounds weird. And I remember doing it, and it brought me back. It hit me right in that
Did
nostalgia.
you do that
zone.
at the mall?
Yeah.
You did?
Not at the big mall that everyone knows at, but there was a mall next to my house growing up when I was younger. And it was indoors, and we would go from store to store and get candy. And it just hit me in the right spot playing through this. Even though the mall is probably the least interesting zone out of the 3 areas that we really go to.
Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Even the maze is a bit more interesting.
I found my issue with the mall was the upper levels. There was a lot of like dark hallways, and I'm
You
like,
can see it, yeah.
exactly, you couldn't see it. And
So a
see,
game
like,
of art design is like one of the main selling points. You're like, I want to see what's there.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted more of the mall from Tony Hawk and less of the mall from Night in the Woods.
I'm sorry.
Tony Hawk's a great game.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4? What one are you talking about?
1 and 2 on 64.
Oh, yeah, you're older. Never mind. Pro Skater 4 is where it's at because the soundtrack was
What about
amazing.
Thug?
Yo,
Don't even talk to me.
Bam Margera's in that game, is he not?
You probably.
Do you know who Bam Margera is?
Dude, no.
Dang it! Really?
Yeah, maybe.
Do you know what Jackass is?
I know who that is.
Jacob, this is a clean podcast.
Jackass is the name of a television program.
It is.
It is. Can I leave it in? Should I just bleep it?
You should.
Should I just bleep it every time I say
Yeah.
Jackass?
And then they'll be wondering, they'll be
Jackass?
like, what was he talking
What
about?
is that show with Bam Margera? How will I ever know?
Oh,
But
okay.
you don't
Bam
know-
Margera's done so much. in this
Okay,
world.
okay. You
How
know
will I
what?
ever
Never
figure it
mind.
out?
I'm
Never
actually
mind.
just gonna
I'll
bleep
just leave.
the A word part of it. I'm just gonna leave Jack beep.
Okay, fair. So the mall actually has one of the more unique things in the game, which is the costume contest, where you have to go around and talk to the different judges and find out what they like, which I thought was like so true in any contest. You playing the judges more than you're becoming the best version.
Actually,
of you
any
that you
job too.
Right,
Just go
yeah.
talk to everyone and see what they like, and
Figure
don't
out
do
what they
anything
like.
original. Just do what they
Just
say.
do what they say, yeah.
Climb
So-
that corporate costume ladder.
Jacob's not bitter.
I'm now realizing, as we're going through this, I might be realizing that I might have only started that quest.
Oh,
But it
you-
sounds like one of the more valuable ones. I must have just like
It's
left
easy.
them all.
You just picked the right 3 costumes for your
Oh.
group,
Wow.
which happens to be, I think, 2 out of the 3 that you guys were using for the whole game.
Robot, Statue of Liberty,
And
Knight. Yeah.
chivalrous, patriotic, and then high tech,
Futuristic?
futuristic,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's you win the contest, and I don't remember what you get because most of it
Candy.
doesn't matter most of the time.
When in doubt, it's candy.
Did you guys ever have a lack of candy?
Nope.
Me neither.
I didn't get all the battle stamps. I think I had 3 of them left to get.
I fought my hoarding tendencies in this game.
I didn't buy all the battle stamps either.
I typically get every piece of collectible that I can,
Mhm.
not out of a conscious decision to collect them all, but just of like, well, it's only like 2 steps that way, so I might as well follow that breadcrumb.
Sure.
And then there's more, and so I end up following it until I collect everything. This game, I actively fought that impulse, and I did not collect everything, and I still had more candy than I knew what to do with. I bought pretty much everything that I came
And you got the
across.
bags too, the different bags.
I don't remember.
There was multiple bags. Did you get the multiple bags for your
I
candy?
don't think I know.
Sorry, what?
So there's like multiple different like receptacles for your
differences?
candy. Just the size on screen. I don't think your capacity was changed, but your actual like logo in the corner. You could get like those like pumpkin.
Where do you get these?
You know those pumpkin.
Wait.
If you completed certain quests, you would go from that brown paper bag you had to like one of those like pumpkin receptacles with the handles on them that you used to get at McDonald's back in the
Yeah,
day.
I remember.
And then also the ultimate one is like a bat. So it's like got bat wings on the end, and
Nice.
it's bigger. I don't actually think it affects your capacity at all. Just like at a certain point on screen, your candy will fill up the bag logo.
Yeah.
And I think that it just changes to which point it fills. Like there's no actual
That's a
advantage.
cool little thing.
Yeah. And there's 4 bags. I only got 3 of them.
The first time I played this game, I did every little side quest to make sure I completed it. This time, I pretty much mainlined the story. And yeah, so the mall, not too much that was interesting. I think one of the cool things, aside from the different little costume competitions, was the rail that you took throughout. You got to see behind the mall. and that leads you to the next zone, which was that town outside. You lure some kids away with some fries. You sneak your way into the carnival.
You trick-or-treat
circus.
your way a bit there, too.
Sure, yeah.
It's like a Bavarian-style village, right?
Yeah, it felt very odd.
Yeah.
There's a nice little lake there.
It's for like the very small British crowd that.
And yeah, so once you complete that little town, you go into circus, carnival, something along those lines. And there's a big Ferris wheel that isn't working, and there's all these little huts throughout that you go trick or treating at. You complete all of those. You talk to the magnificent Orzo.
So good.
You use your kitsune shroud to sneak into the cannon that he's using to get on top of the Ferris wheel. You go into the battle. You fight. Was that one of the bosses? No.
The bulldozer guy. The bulldozer.
It's not Maxtel.
Not Maxtel.
Yeah. So there are 4 major bosses I think throughout the game. There's Bojan, who's the first boss that you face.
Megaphone.
Megaphone. My tactic there was just destroy him. Don't worry about the megaphone.
Oh, I did the opposite. I destroyed Megaphone first.
I did Megaphone too.
Because you can call them reinforcements with Megaphone.
But I just ignored the reinforcements because I had the right loadout. And then
you see that subtle he's like, guys, see what he did there. Yeah.
I mean, your fries. Pouring salt on it.
And then the next boss is Maxtel, who's this little gnome dude who rides around in a bulldozer.
Is this the guy that they're like, do you want us to come over there? And he's like, no, wait. Like, I love that.
He's driving around essentially in a little
the classic cartoon trope of like, wait, you're over there. Wait, no, okay, wait for me.
Yeah, and then I think there's a third boss on the Ferris wheel, if I'm not wrong.
I don't remember the third boss.
Okay. Anyway.
Because you fight Delora?
Drusilla.
Delora.
I'm a big Buffy the Vampire fan.
And then you fight Big Bones. Like, that's kind of the order. I don't remember there being a boss between those two. Because you had to repeat bosses sometimes. Like, you had to fight Bojan twice.
You fight
once in the arcade
twice.
and Mextel twice.
So you clean out the Ferris wheel. They do a nice Deus Ex Machina. They get you off the Ferris wheel. You go into this maze. You find the Grublin, who's like, I'm defecting. I'm on your side. Don't tell anyone. I don't want Drusilla coming to my world. Let me help you. He's like, here's what you need to do. You need to get this costume. You'll sneak by. You sneak by. You fight Drusilla. Drusilla goes down. Drusilla's battle, pretty cool. Okay? Like, she's got a lot of cool little spots.
I thought that was the main boss.
I kind of was expecting that, but then I knew that they kept referencing Big Bones throughout. So I was like, there's no way we're not seeing Big Bones.
Can I tell you how I felt about this whole, like, back third of it?
Yeah.
I feel like it was 3 levels that they crunched into one. Because I thought about, like, the village as one thing, the carnival as another, and the maze as, like, the final approach.
They're all smaller.
They're all smaller, but I felt like this game was meant to be much bigger. Like, the scope maybe was bigger, and they had to, at the end, I know nothing about the development of this game, but I feel as though at the end they had to be like, oh shoot, we need to get this out. Let's just find a way to crunch these 3 together, because they were very distinct. Like, the mall kind of fit together. The cul-de-sac, like, that was almost perfect, the way everything fit together. The mall a little less so, with some of the underground areas, and the monorail kind of going into some of those back darker areas. Monorail. I actually don't know what you're referring to.
There's a great episode of The Simpsons where Conan O'Brien wrote it, where there's a big sing and dance number where this monorail salesman comes to Springfield and tries to sell Springfield on a monorail. And then they go over to Shelbyville, I think, and they realize that, like, he sold them a monorail too, and it's gone to poop.
So monorails are evil is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Got it. But I felt like this was distinct levels that were just connected by space.
Hold on. Wait,
I definitely take that point. I definitely agree that they were smaller areas.
Sorry, I just have to text my monorail salesman. I was getting installed, but, you know.
Yeah, you should probably cancel that one. Although it'd be nice to have a monorail around the house.
I mean, you know, just with 2 floors.
You know what you could do?
A lot of walking.
You know what you could do? There are these commercials. You know, after watching television during the day, I can tell you this for sure, is that there are these chairs that you can get installed in your house that will lift you up the stairs so you don't have to climb the stairs.
Yeah, but...
I've seen those on The Price is Right.
That's exactly where I've seen them. Miracle chair?
I don't know.
But I don't want to leave the couch, you know, so...
I'm sure we can retrofit it so that way the couch just glides up the stairs with you.
Okay.
If you're a monorail salesman listening to the Left Behind Game Club, first off, thank
Stop
you.
being evil.
And second, actually send us an email with a quote because I'd be really interested to know how much a
Questions
monorail.
at leftbehindgame.club.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's the email.
That's the one.
That's the email.
Or if you have others. But mostly, if you're a
monorail
yeah.
salesman.
What other salesman do you want to reach out to us? Go.
Anyway, so I totally take the point that it's 3 levels squished into one, but each one of them are smaller, so I don't feel like it's too tough.
Mhm.
You battle Drusilla. She's got great power. She creates multiple copies of herself. You don't know which one's the real one, but you do because she takes less damage than any of her clones do. So you just concentrate attacking on the one that takes the least damage out of all of them. And then once you defeat her, you talk to her again. She's like, "If you talk to me one more time, kid, you're gonna have to face me. You're gonna have to fight me." And then you fight her, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna call in reinforcements." And she calls in Big Bones. And I don't know about you guys, but I was not expecting Big Bones to be a big boned skeleton, an overweight skeleton who would not make his way through the portal because he was too big and he liked candy
From eating
too
all
much.
that candy.
I was not expecting that. I thought that was one of the best play on words there was because, big people are called Big Bone.
For sure. And you've never seen a fat
It's
skeleton.
better when I explain
Dang
it.
it. It's so good when you explain it.
It's so good.
Finish the explanation.
Finish the explanation.
Explain
Yeah.
more.
And he is a big skeleton who's overweight.
Why is he so
Forget it.
overweight?
Because he
Why?
eats all the candy.
Who's candy?
All the kids' candy.
Oh shoot, because it's Halloween,
Because
right?
it's Halloween.
I hate you.
I love you, Jake.
So
Your
anyway-
negativity cannot overwhelm me.
You're Big Bones. Tell me
So
the
you
Big
face
Bones.
Big Bones.
Uh-huh.
Big Bones is the only tough battle in the whole game as far as I'm concerned. I wasn't sure if my optimal loadout was optimal, but I was able to squeeze it out.
I don't know about you, but I did that in one try.
Whoa.
And there's proof of this on my Twitch page at jacobstreams.com. I did it in one. I don't know about you. No? Did
Well,
one?
here's what So, I did attempt it multiple times, and then I was like, and then I watched a guide. And then I watched the rest of it on YouTube on my phone. I'm so... I was like, at some point it's going to have to come out, Andrew. It's going to have to.
Here's
I
my...
applaud you for being honest.
But I was like...
You beat 97% of the game.
Yeah. And I was like, I missed like all the costumes, as I said. So I feel like I was like, oh, maybe like the guide I watched, the guy had a vampire one.
Vampire's important.
And I was like, man, like I don't have that. So I thought they were like, oh, the pumpkin one is going to help you when you run into a big problem. Do you remember?
I
forget-
I didn't like the pumpkin
Neither
cards.
did I.
Someone gave me a bit of dialogue. I remember when they give you the pumpkin costume, and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
This is going to help you when you get a big problem. So I was like, oh, I'll just rely on the pumpkin to get me out of it.
Dory
And
tells you that.
And I was like, the pumpkin's abilities are not
Not
like,
good.
well, they're just not special. And I was
Yeah.
like, what is there like maybe a weakness that I'm missing here? Like
Yeah.
maybe it's like some special thing just with Big Bones.
Uh-huh.
And then so
Big Bones is kind of funny.
no, it was great. Like
Yeah.
Because he doesn't fit. Like
He doesn't fit
the
through
rest.
the portal that he creates to get through.
I mean the rest of the game. He doesn't fit the rest of the game
Oh,
thematically.
sorry.
but
You're-
also yes.
You're like jokes today, eh?
I'm always jokes.
Yeah, I like you a lot today. You're being me in this moment, and it's really I like it a lot.
Great.
Big Bones, eh?
So, Big Bones. Big Bones is hilarious because what he does is he summons minions, sucks them up, and shoots them at you. And you would expect him to like summon minions like any other boss to
Like
attack
Kirby.
you. Yeah, he does. He pulls a Kirby. And then once you beat him, you like hop in a van and you drive back to town
With a stranger.
with a
That looked very suspiciously like the woman you just
It
No,
was Dory.
no, I get that, but I'm saying, like, in theory, it could have been,
Right, yeah.
like, when I saw
You
that,
got
I was
the
like,
van
oh,
and
maybe
straight.
there's more, and
You gave
maybe,
candy.
yeah,
Throughout the game.
It was a real conspicuous van.
yeah.
It was like a VW bug.
With like a
Or
surfboard
van.
on it.
Uh huh.
And then you get back home.
And you don't tell your
candy.
parents
You
anything.
don't tell your parents anything. One of my favorite things throughout the game, though, was the kids kept mentioning, like, you would expect an adult to notice that, like, some of this stuff is happening in this world, but none of the adults or grown-ups ever notice it.
False. When you're in the mall, and you're in the dark part of the mall, and you're talking to the guy, and you're like, "Yo, there's monsters here," and he's like, "Oh, they're just teenagers." That's what he said. But like he was pointing at the monsters. So I thought maybe at the end of the game it was going to come out that all the monsters were teenagers.
That's such a good theory.
I thought that's what it was.
That's such a good theory.
Because it was mentioned once, and I was like, well, they would be like, oh, maybe they're taking all the candy from the little kids.
Andrew, that's so good.
This is like
so
the Little
good.
Rascals.
At Matt Pat, hook
It's
me
so
up.
good.
I'm
And that's-
submitting resumes.
a game theory.
The other like fun little reference to an adult noticing that something was going on. One of the adults says, "Kids, you're in grave danger," and then he like ... says, "Attacked by sugar," and he's the guy who's bobbing for apples.
The apple guy,
Yeah.
Who you find out later is in like the lobby for Big Candy.
What?
Yeah, you find out at the end that he's like a Big Candy rep because you complete these tasks where you're like eating these apples, but then the reward is candy. It's like it's all about positive association.
Mm-hmm. I totally missed that.
It's one of those, again, great writing.
Because I think the first moment when you do it in the cul-de-sac, because it's like a series of 3, you like do 20 apples, then 25, then 30. And I think what happened with me the third time is he went something like, and it was a throwaway joke, he's all like, "And you did it, you got all the apples." And the kid's like, "So what's my prize?" "Candy!" And the kids are like, "Wait, doesn't that not make any sense?" He's like, "Candy!" My favorite part in the end game related to the writing was when they're gathering their candy and they're all looking at what their spoils were. You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Dad tax.
Dad tax. The dad reaches down.
That was funny. I
grabs
that, yeah.
Dad says nothing the whole game, but dad tax.
And he goes, "Dad tax."
And he steals candy.
I think if I play through at the beginning, I'm like, oh, look at the dad. He's just sitting there not giving a crap with anything.
Yeah.
Like he was just like you can just. They've animated the I don't care face really well on him.
I don't know. Did you guys notice that your parents look like none of the adults in this town?
Yep,
None of the grown-ups.
I noticed that.
The grown-ups look very odd and don't look like they belong to any of the kids or vice versa. But it looks like all of the kids you run into belong to your parents. They look aesthetically similar.
Huh. You know what? Now that you're thinking about it, or now that you're saying it, what I think about is like
theory.
that's a game theory. What I think about is like those mustache glasses. Like all the male adults look like those
It looked
glasses.
fake. Yeah.
the 100%. So
I thought it was gonna be like, the first time I saw it, I thought he was gonna take it off and then it was gonna be a grubbin. Like JK, I gotcha.
I wish they would have done that. But that was my favorite part of the end. Is there anything else that you guys want to say about the game? I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to say about it. It's before I give my final impressions, what do you?
I think for me my favorite part of the game was exploration. Like far more than every other bit. It was just a wonderful little world of nostalgia and I don't know. Even though there's monsters running around, it felt like. It really provided that nostalgia, and I didn't even trick or treat that much as a kid. But it was brilliant.
I got that, and all that I want Double Fine to do now is to do an RPG based on It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Yes.
That's all I want. Just give me that. Costume Quest 3, Peanuts, It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown RPG.
I can't wait to play Costume Quest 2. I love this game. I've played it twice now. I didn't think that I was going to love it as much the second time, but I really did still enjoy it. For me, that was it.
My final thoughts about it, I'm in the same boat as you. I didn't play Costume Quest 2. I'm going to now. I'm going to try to actually play it before Halloween or shortly thereafter. I would say play this game. It's super fun. It's 6 hours long. You could get it for 99 cents from mid-October
On Steam right now, yeah.
on Steam. 99 cents for this game. So worth it.
Run out and buy it.
Save it until October.
Thematically appropriate.
Yeah, so next year on your pile of shame, bring Costume Quest 1 to the top. And just play that thing.
Play it now
Andy?
over a couple days.
Final thoughts?
6 out of 10.
I hate you so
Really?
No. It's I liked it, but to me it just doesn't feel like something.
Get
it's
out
not
right now.
It's not what I would play. And I understand why people like it, but I don't know if I do it and I don't have to do it. I might give Costume, especially because it's so cheap. I'll probably try Costume Quest 2 just as a mental experiment of seeing if I if it changes when I don't have to do it. But I did find it quaint, and the writing definitely made it bearable and like pulled me right through it.
Can I just, as a final point, you sat here with the two of us, and I don't usually do this because I'm usually like the grumpy one. You talk nothing but good about this for like an hour, and then at the end you're just like, oh, 6 out of 10.
It was bearable.
Well, you're glowing right now.
No.
We're all glowing.
I enjoyed it, but opportunity cost, like I got Facebook, meaningless Facebook posts to see. No. But in all reality, like I play like massive RPGs. Like I put like 200 hours into like games like The Witcher, and like to me that's like such a richer experience. But like I do enjoy it. I would recommend, if you're on the cusp of playing it and it's Halloween and you want something Halloween played, I would say like it's an experience that you should have. But as far as like actual gameplay, I wasn't like the combat system really.
Sure. Especially because there are very few Halloween games that are horror games.
For sure, and it's short too, right? Like it's something that you can enjoy in the span of a day.
So, Andrew, where can the people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Andy Windsor, and you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Project Gateway Canada. And that's where all my stuff is, including YouTube, short movies, what have you.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Mr. Jacob McCourt, where can people find you?
Cool. They can find me at Jacob McCourt. If you want to follow my streaming adventures when we play our next game, which I think Michael's going to talk about. No, you're not going to talk about it? Can I talk about it?
You can talk about it.
Okay. You can follow me at jacobstreams.com. Michael, where can the people find you?
Find me at Ruffolo M on Twitter, and michaelruffolo.com. And Jacob, so what's the next game that we have on the docket?
We're going to keep going with this Halloween theme despite it being November.
I'm so excited.
And we're going to play Luigi's Mansion.
I can't wait.
Honestly, I think that's better than the Christmas Eve.
You know why?
That's way better.
It's Superior Mario Brother.
Stop it.
Look, sometimes when you're right, you just need to make sure everyone knows you're right.
So
I can neither confirm nor deny this.
So wait, are you a fence sitter in relation to the Mario Brothers?
Well, yeah, because I'm not. I never played those games.
We'll talk about this off air.
Yeah.
And that, my friends, is one last game left behind. If you enjoyed the show and want more, make sure to check us out on iTunes and give us a 5-star review. Andrew, did you give us a 5-star review?
I did.
See, and Andrew's good people. So,
and he did it before he came on the show. Like, I don't want to like be like, hey, Andrew, do this 5-star review.
You have to do it.
You have to do it. No, he did this before he came on the show.
But I did get a gift basket in the mail. No.
So yeah,
about that later.
That is one last game left behind. It's been a slice.